All I remember about O'Neill is that he was with the Eagles and he quit.
If I understand correctly, that instead of having the Super Bowl in Atlanta, they might as well have in Chicago this weekend, right?
Better to have in Chicago because in Chicago we used to have indoor practice facilities where they don't Atlanta.
What are their practice facilities? What do you do indoors? Only forced to him. Okay. Okay. I remember once I was at a chasna once in Memphis, in the middle of I don't remember what it was. It wasn't that late. Well, it wasn't the time when you expect snow. It was like November or something, but it snowed very heavily, and had one de-icer in the whole airport. So getting back out of Memphis for like 3 hours on the ground till they finally de-iced all the planes.
Winter, December, so we flew to Israel. When we flew via Switzerland and Zurich, there was 1 inch of snow on the ground. The airport was paralyzed. Switzerland? It was so weird. Efficiencies.
All right. We are on Daf Samach Chesman base. 5 lines to the bottom. Rav Shimon ben Levi Amar. Rav Shimon ben Levi says, "Ein l'cha nitpas al chavero v'chayev litein lo." A person who has to pay. In other words, they made me pay your taxes, so I don't have to reimburse you. Ella, no, you don't have to reimburse me. Ella bar known, unless it's the land tax, the real estate tax, will go less than poll tax. But any other payment the government makes me pay on your behalf, you don't have to reimburse me. Rav Amar, not true. Kol anit pasal chavero. Anybody who the government makes me pay your traffic tickets. Whatever the government makes me pay, so then I have to pay for the. You have to be reimbursed. What is that? I didn't get one of those. I didn't say prevention, that's why. Okay, got a set of chumashim. That was your size, a set of chumashim in the market? Oh, you just told me here now. Okay, venture. Alright. Chavero, the proof of Rav is from the following brisa. Somebody who stole a field, and it was taken away in turn by mitzikim, are like bandits of another type. So I stole the field from you, and then the bandit stole the field from me. So the halacha is that we compel the bandit, the thief, to return the money to the person from whom we stole the field. Even though the field is stolen, is already not his possession, it was stolen by somebody else. Well, nevertheless, he has to pay. Below Shama, even though that's the brisa which Rav used as proof text, below Shama Madam Rabbi, I don't know, this is, I guess, Rabbi Yochanan. Below Shama Madam Rabbi Yochanan.
Korban says that it was sold to somebody else, then stolen from that other person. Because that's why they're talking about Hatzir and Gross, that's where the money comes in.
You're right. When I looked at it, I didn't make the complete notation. I have a notation coordinator changed the shot, but I didn't make the complete notation. Good point. Okay. So what's the story again? He He
This field was stolen from that person who in turn sold it to somebody else, got money for it.
yeah.
Then I think these thieves took the money.
No. Okay, I got it now.
They took the field from the buyer.
They took the field from the buyer, but now the Goslin. I stole a field. I sell it to you. Now the bandits come and take it from you. You're the buyer. Anyway, it wasn't your field because you bought stolen goods. But I, the thief, have to reimburse you for the money you're out. That's what I think it is. Yeah.
Reimburse the buyer?
I have to reimburse the buyer. I, the thief, have to reimburse the buyer. The thief sold the field. So the thief has to reimburse the buyer. He has to reimburse both. He has to reimburse both the person from whom he stole the field, and he has to reimburse the buyer from him, right? So he's out double. Why? That's what. But he caused a double loss because he stole the field and then he stole it. So and then he sold it, and the guy who bought it lost it too. So it caused a double loss.
It's the same amount of money.
That's true, but it's the two different people now. So he make him pay to both.
I still has to pay the buyer.
He's got the buyer's money.
I understand. But
Yeah.
It's not like he had any control over that situation.
So that's what Gemara says. Well, Rav wants to learn this brisa that teaches that you have to that if somebody comes and takes your money from the behalf of another person's debt, so you have to reimburse that other person, right? So v'lo shama ma'ada amar Rabbi Yochanan knas konsu begazlan. You didn't hear Rav did not hear that. Rabbi Yochanan said it's a special case where you find the thief, then pay to pay double because he is a thief, not because it necessarily is the right thing to do, but because he's a thief, we threw the book at him. Boy, getting back to the case of the government took from me tax on your behalf. And I'm going to learn this like the Mashbiach. You know, there's a nice shot also in Noam Yerushalmi here on the bottom. But the Noam Yerushalmi has to change the Girsa, and the Mashbiach doesn't. He says, what if my poll tax, let's say in my 1040, my poll tax was $5,000 for the year, and they came and took from you $6,000, which is an error, or too much. I don't know, it was error, malicious and unintentional. So now I have to reimburse you because you have to pay poll tax on my part. But do I reimburse you based on the $5,000 you would have had to pay, or the $6,000 that they actually took from you? Now the Rabbah means, obviously, the amount above and beyond. So Rabbi Yosef Rabun Rayachir Bar Lulaina Tarvayu Treon B'Shem Shmuel Amrei Charamar Kiar No Megugolos, that I only have to reimburse as is the amount of the taxes precisely, which is $5,000. The Cholon Amar, the other said Eino Kar No Megugolos, it's not like the actual tax. Rather, I have to reimburse you even for the above and beyond amount, because that's what the government came and took from you. So that's what I have to reimburse you for. Okay? Talmud learns over there. Mirapeu Ripui Nefesh. Now, this is not relevant at all to our sugya, but it's brought down here just merely because it's discussing issues of Nidorim and Hanoah and stuff like that. Mirapeu Ripui Nefesh. I'm forbidden to provide you, you're forbidden to derive benefit from me. I'm not allowed to provide you with benefit. So I can still heal you, Ripui Nefesh, Avalo Ripui Mamon. It's interesting, Ripui Nefesh here means not mental health, but it means I can heal your body, but not your money, meaning I can't provide you with veterinary services. Okay? I could be your personal doctor, but not your veterinarian. Makes sense, doesn't it? Says the Gemara will explain. In case it doesn't make sense, the Gemara will explain. So what's the difference? He had two different approaches. One said, it depends what the oath was, the vow. If the vow was to preclude any bodily benefit, so then he's forbidden to even heal him, refuas hanefesh, even to give him personal doctor service. Where he just refused to accept him benefit in his property, so then he can give him veterinary. He can't give veterinary service, but he gives him personal medical services. The other says, no. The difference is whether somebody else can heal the guy. If there's somebody else to heal the guy, so then you shouldn't even give him refuas hanefesh, right? If there is nobody else to heal him, then he can even give him refuas hanefesh. So it says, I'm sorry. No, sorry. If there's somebody to heal him, then there's another doctor to heal the animals, then you're not allowed to heal the animals. If there's another doctor to heal the animals, no, the opposite. There's another doctor to heal the animals, you're allowed to heal the animals. Because you could have gone to the other doctor. You could have gotten a veterinarian number 2, right? So you're not giving him any more benefit than he would have gotten otherwise. So you're not giving literal benefit to him. However, if there's nobody else to heal the animals, so then you're not allowed to heal the animals because you're the only doctor around. It's not a benefit they could have gotten any other way, right? So again, then you're allowed to give it to him. There's nobody else around, then you're not allowed to give it to him the veterinary services. Now it says, if there's somebody else to heal him, so there's somebody else to heal him, why should you even give him refuas hanefesh? In other words, just don't give him any healing whatsoever. I made a mistake. I was right the first time, wrong the second time, and now I have to correct the third time. The first time I was right. I just looked in the carbonate again. If there's no other doctor around, then I'm not allowed to heal him. I'm not allowed to heal him. Because then I'm actually... They give me the anoah.
If there's somebody else around, so you just happen to be an instrument by which the reaping takes place. You couldn't get somebody else to. But if you're it, well.
If there's another doctor around, I'm not allowed to heal the animal.
Because you can go to someone else.
You can go to somebody else. There's another vet around, you can go, is this what you just said? You said the opposite, because you said like I said. If there's another vet around, like I said the second time, it's like I said the first time, if there's another vet around, then I'm not allowed to heal him because he can go to the other vet. If there is no other vet around, so I'm allowed to heal him because there's nobody else for him to go. Nobody else for him to go to, so I'm allowed to do it. So the Gemara and the Carbonator brings down, although it's not explicit here in the Sugya, in elsewhere it's brought down Masechet Nedarim, because you're allowed to give back an Aveda. You're allowed to return an object, a lost item, to somebody who's forbidden to derive any benefit from you. That's not considered to be a benefit. To give back something you lost is not a benefit. So if I'm a vet, and I'm healing his animal because there's nobody else around to do it, so that's not considered to be anything more than machzir lo avedaso, because otherwise the animal would die. So therefore I'm giving it back as aveda. If there is another animal, or the vet, and somebody else to return his aveda to him, so that for me to do it is also, because then I'm providing him already with a service. It's something beyond machzir avedaso. Okay? So now the Gemara asks, if that's the case, if there's somebody else to heal the guy, I feel they shouldn't even be able to provide personal medical services. Why allowed to provide personal medical services? Let go to the other doctor. It says Mar Shalomi na kol adam zechel rapos. No, not everybody is a good doctor. Some people are good, some people are bad. So therefore, since that's the case, for vets, we don't care so much. For personal doctors, you can even go to a person who normally you forswore benefit from because of the nature of healing. Okay? So that's true even if there is another doctor in town. Now, going further, although it's not brought down, as I said, the price itself, but we're talking about the price in the Dorim. And it says you're allowed to give him back an Aveda that he lost. So it says the Gemara, the lo nichsea machzir ein shenasun ba'al pora. The talk about a case that there it says the Pnei Moshe brings down the brisa that you gave back. You were allowed to give back to a guy an object that he lost. And it says, however, that if you give him back an object he lost, you can't take a reward. Thank you. You can't take a reward. So the question is, why you can't take a reward? You're also to provide him benefit, but he's allowed to provide you benefit, so let him provide you the benefit of giving you a reward. Why should you get a reward for giving back the lost object? So it says the Gemara, you're right, theoretically you could. It's talking about their specific case. Ula Rabbi Shmuel b'Shem Rabbi Yitzchak said, let me read the question again. Isn't it the person who gives back the object which was lost? They're also to the owner of the cow. The cow is the lost object. But the owner of the cow can pay him money. So it says, Talking about where each person's property is forbidden on the other ones. This is a very interesting, actually, case. The case is like, it says over there, that whatever anah there is considered to be hektish. Now, hektish is lav dafka, but it means that you can't allow anybody to benefit from the other guy. It's like hektish in that respect. Who's the author of that statement? Dray Meir. Mata tiba anah hektish Dray Meir. Dray Meir Omer says molim b'isuros. There's actually me'ilah if I transgress a neder, because a neder is like hektish. So if I transgress a neder, in other words, you took a neder for swearing me from any hanor from your property. If I have hanor then from your property, I have to. It's like me'ilah, and I have to pay the hektish karen the chomish, even though the property wasn't really hektish. It wasn't hektish, but since I made it like hektish, so therefore I have to pay the penalty if I have benefits. Okay? There's a milah by that which is forsworn. Rabbi Avon Bar Chia Boyer, he asked like this: Nader min hakikar. This is actually a pretty cool question. I took an oath not to derive any benefit from a piece of bread, a loaf of bread. By the way, Pnei Moshe claims this is in the Bavli, but I have no recollection of this. Nedarim I don't know very well at all. So Nader min hakikar malacham emisyotav. Can he use? I forswore hanah from a loaf of bread. Am I allowed to burn it and use it to warm my hands? It's a good question, right? Because what?
It's hanah lo kedarka.
Right, hanah lo kedarka. Right, that's the question. So, nishmini me'adah. Let's hear from this. Amar, if a person says, Hakikra is a hektish, this blow patch be hektish. Achlo, if he ate it. Beinu, ben acher, whether it's he who made it hektish or not. Now, this hektish is actually not really hektish. Okay, it's not really hektish, but here it means that he made it also as a neder. Right, in line of what Ray Meir said before, that neder is like a hektish. So achlo benu ben acher, if anybody eats it, ma they commit mi'ilah. Vilna yesh lepida. That's why it could be redeemed out of its state of a prohibition because it's mamish like hektish. Im amar reza a lie. If you said this loaf of bread is forbidden on me, achlo, if you eat it, ma'abo b'tov you're moiling it to the extent that you would be allowed to give it to somebody else. That's its value vis-a-vis Mila. Now, what does this mean? Acherim lo ma'alubo, ma'alu, lefichach ein lo pidyon. This, it says that others are not moel, therefore... I'm sorry. This is actually a continuation of the Brisa. We didn't say this before, right? No. Other people other people are not moel, and therefore it has no pidyon. Now, this is an interesting thing. Meila might be relevant by any type of neder, but pidyon is only if it enters a different state. Right? It only enters a different state, so then it can be redeemed. What defines if it enters a different state? If everybody in the world universally is also on it, in essence that makes it an Isser Chefza. If, however, it's only also to me, I say I forswear Hanor from this, but nobody else is, so then that's an Isser Gavra. There's no redemption. It hasn't entered a new state. So there's a very interesting dichotomy. In both cases, talk about not a korban here, talk about a thing which I made usher, but if it's in my domain, my jurisdiction. So if I made it usher from the entire world, it mamish enters a new state, and therefore it can be redeemed. If I made it usher only on myself, for me it's the same ramification, but it's not usher on the entire world, and therefore it can't be redeemed because it never entered a new state of affairs. Okay? Now, it says the word lo amar lo achlo. It only says here we're talking about the bread to eat it. That's the prohibition. But to heat up his hands, mutter, it sounds like it's okay. Because it's not, the only hano which is customary is eating, not the no of eating your hands. Okay, new issue. It says here the Tani should be masnisi or masnisa. Masnisin, our Mishnah. Study went to Chutzarts v'amad e'acher pina sisishno. And somebody got up, I skipped. So I skipped 4 lines. Tamid Rabbi Yonah b'shem Rabbun Bar Chia said. Tamid Rabbi Yonah Rabbun Bar Chia said, Kini, this is the way to read it. Ba'omer lo chlenu v'lo et amenu. It's talking about here specifically a case where you ate it, you said, I'm not going to eat it, or I'm not even going to taste it. Loss or love el achil, and their taka, the only prohibition is to eat. Akidun tzricha, but it's still an open question. Nodar mina kikar. We didn't say an oath not to eat it, but an oath from the bread. Ma'al whether you can warm your hands then, and we leave that dangling. We don't have an answer. Now. Nishu, Masnisim, Mishlach, Nisam, somebody went to Chutzlaritz. V'amad Achar Pinas Nishu, somebody else got up and was willing to sustain his wife. So he said in the Mishnah that Admod said, Hiniach most of Akar Natzvi, tough on him, and the Bnei Kohen Gedolim said that he should get reimbursed. Okay? Amr Chagai Lo Amru El Acher, interesting concept. He says, the only question is by a stranger. Ha'av Goyve. But if the father sustain his daughter while her husband is out of town, when the husband gets back, she collects on the husband's property. Rabbi Yossi Rabbeinu Abbeinu Acher Eino Goyve. It doesn't matter whether it's the father or somebody else. He cannot collect. Uvasun in plugvasa, and this machlokas is going to all in plugvasa like this machlokas. The Tiyatam we learned over there. V'zakai b'mitzia saw. A father before his daughter gets married merits to get her mitzia, umaisia dea, her handiwork. Mr. Zuger, can I ask you to close the door, please? You mind close the door? I don't know if you were cold, but thank you. It says a father merits his daughter's mitzias, whatever she makes, and nullifies her vows. Accepts her get. Cannot eat her fruit, that's the fruit of her property, while she's still alive. Now, the few lines missing here, a few words should say, Nises, once she gets married, the husband is superior, he does eat fruits in her lifetime, and going back to the Gemara, he's liable to provide her mizonos, to release her, pay for release, taken captive, and pay for her burial if she dies. Now, there's more words missing here. Again, it's called the Korbaneda. It should say, V'tanya lo, we learn concerning this, lo ratzah ba'al l'kovra. If the husband doesn't want to bury her, ha'av kovra, the father buries her, umotzi manu bedin, and he extracts the money from his son by a law case. Amar Rabbi Chagai said, lo amar is back in the Gemara, lo amar elo of. If the father pays for the funeral, he can extricate the money from the husband. Anybody else, tough luck. Rabbi Yossi Omer, bein ab, bein acher, regardless of what it is, goiver, they collect from the father, whoever paid for the burial, whoever paid for the funeral. Al daiti Rabbi Chagai, so when I say Rabbi Chagai, bein l'kvur, bein l'mazonos, where they're talking about the cost of burial or the cost of feeding, av goiver, the father lays out the expenditures, and then he collects from the husband. Somebody else cannot collect. Al daiti to Rabbi Yossi, according to Rabbi Yossi, l'kvura, in terms of burial, bein av, bein acher goiver. Regardless of who it is, whether it's the father or somebody else, they collect. Because no husband wants that his wife should be cast to the dogs. I know maybe nowadays there are husbands like that, but once there weren't, right? So therefore, it's a umdara de muchach, according to him. It's obvious to us that he would want to pay for his wife's funeral expenses, regardless of who spent them on zonos. But by food, ben ab ben acher, if he's out of town and his father or somebody else supports, wherever it is, eno goiva, they cannot collect for the mizonos they spent. Okay? So it's a machlokes whether the father has some special status, that if he pays for his daughter's upkeep when the husband's out of town, whether he gets reimbursed or not, we have no clear-cut halach on that. New Mishnah. Halacha Gimel. Admon Omar. Admon says, Admon Shiva. The last Mishnah was Chanan. This is Admon. Admon said 7 things. The first thing is, Mishaniach Bonim Ubanos. Somebody who died, Mishames, somebody who died, B'nich Bonim Ubanos, the left sons and daughters. When there's a lot of property, Habonim Yershu, the sons get their inheritance, Habonis Yizonu, and the daughters get fed. Nechasim Otiv is very little property, Habonis Yizonu, then the daughters get fed. But Haboni Shub Sachim, and the sons go and beg. They get their green cards out. Amon Omer Ahmed says, the Shushani Sachim Sadi, just because I'm a male, I lose. It's not fair. It's reverse discrimination. Amar Gamliel said, run is Tivra Admon. Gamliel liked the words of Admon in this respect. What is going to be a lot of property that they divide up? They divide up. The boys get their share, and the girls get their share, and we don't just give it to the girls. So it says the Gemara, Rabbi Zira and Rabbi Yishem Rav said, Kadesh Yesham Mosan Yud Beis Chodesh, that there should be enough food for the next 12 months, besides whatever other property there is. So the girls get their food for the next 12 months, and the boys split up the rest of their property. Says the Gemara, there's enough food for the males and the females, so then the girls get their part, and the boys get their part, and they divide up the rest of the property only among the boys, of course, because the boys are the heirs. Shama Shmuel heard this, Umar, and he said, Zudivrei Rabbi Gamliel B'Rebbe. So these are the words of Rabbi Gamliel, the son of Rebbe. Abu Chachomim say, that's not enough. Actually, Vogru, there's got to be enough food there to provide for them until they become 12 and a half, or until they marry whatever comes first. I don't know how you know where they're going to marry, but that's enough food there to give the sons and daughters food to that point, and then afterwards, if there's still money left over, then the sons divide it up as usual, Doraisa. Okay? Says the Gemara, Bon Kum Rabbi Yossi, asked Rabbi Yossi, At Mashmas min Rabbi Yochanan. What did you hear from Rabbi Yochanan about this? I'm going to say, I'll tell you, I didn't hear anything explicitly, but I can infer. Nefarish milam le'en the Rabbanan. Let's explain the words of the rabbis. From their other words, which are let's say at the time of the death of the father, there's enough to supply everybody's needs for 12 months. And now they got depleted after death or became worth less, whatever. So he said, since the Yisraelim began to eat better because it was enough at the time of death, so therefore they continue to eat until the last cent is used up, and they don't divide it in this fashion based on the new, more limited amount of property which is available at the time that they distribute it. Rather they go by what was available at the time of the father's death. Okay? So, actually the main point here though is that it's 12 months. The amount of food which has to be on hand to consider a lot of property is 12 months. Not until she grows up or until she becomes married. For 12 months. Says the Gemara, when do we reckon this? So when they come to divide up, that's when we reckon it. Rabbi Chanina said, you didn't hear the words of the rabbis that we just said. The Nasabar Shabbai coming Rabbi Yochanan. He asked Rabbi Yochanan, if there was enough money for 12 months, then the property came less. Amar lady said, became she's since they started in permissibility, they continue until the last pruta. So when was there enough? And when it become diminished? So obviously there was enough. Because you reckon for the first moment at the point of death, and therefore even the property diminishes afterwards, we will go by the original reckoning. So if at the time of death there was enough to provide 12 months for everybody, so everybody takes their money for the next 12 months, and they distribute the rest among the boys. Even if the property then got diminished afterwards, they still divide it proportionally. The only time the boys go back is if at the time of death there's not enough to provide everybody with 12 months ahead of time. So then the boys got to go back. Okay? Says the Gemara, however, there's a catch here. Rav Chisda boy, Chisda asked, what about if there wasn't enough originally for 12 months? So what should the boys do? Beg. Right. However, this is the case, according to Carbonado, there was enough, let's say there are 2 sons and 2 daughters. There was enough for the 2 daughters for 12 months. And there was enough for the boys then for 6 months. So what do we do with that? Do we say, well, you have to beg anyway, so give the other 6 months to the girls? Or do we give them at least the 6 months which they could get? Okay, that's the more issue here. So it says the Gemara, no kir nechasim, lo eshem mazi beis chosh v'kir nechasim, and the property went up in value, meaning that there's enough for partial payment to the Yisraelim. Yishmini min adah. Let's get it here from here. What happens if the orphans sell? In other words, they're supposed to be out begging, but instead the rotten underhanded thinks they went and sold the real estate. It's a valid sale. So you would say not pashas because it's meshubah to the girls, right? No, the Gemara says not that way. Unfortunately, they didn't say anything because the Gemara says the Yisraelim bachru. If the Yisraelim, this is in the Bavli too. If the heirs get up and sell, Shalem Machru. Then they sold their own stuff. Hi, the girls are supposed to have it. Tough luck. The girls didn't get it in that case.
Supposed to stop the boys from doing this all the time?
What? Only ethics. Because you obviously didn't like that answer. That's all there is. Just ethical responsibility. I guess Basin could beat the living daylights out of them. Other than that, ethical responsibility. Because Hokiru here with the goes at a price. Shelohan Hokiru. Also, it sees Soimims. Even though originally there wasn't enough to give them, but now that there's much what to give them, you can't deprive them of their underlying ownership of really all of the property. Okay? Says a lot further. Where am I now? Lo yesham mozon yibes kodesh. Now this again, it probably till now it's a case where the property went up in price. Initially, it wasn't enough for the assignment, and then the property went up. What about if at the beginning, as I said before, there was enough for the Yisomos, but not enough to cover the Yisomos for 12 months? So now we're talking about a case where the property rose. Initially, the Yisomos got nothing. The property rose in price. And we said we give the rise in price to the Yisomos because the underlying ownership is theirs. But what about now, forgetting about that, what about if initially there's not enough to go around? But there is more than 12 months for the girls. So what do I give the boys in that case? So it says, Mazon Yud Beis Chodesh, Ma'u Shemru Be'ebos, can the son say doors, Fushachem will take your 12 months apiece, Utsu and get out of here, and the rest will distribute evenly, even though it's not enough. Alright, Rabbi Abba said, Me'adomas Nisa Amar Amara, for this price you learn, She'ein Omer Elohem, they can't say that to the girls. The thing that we learned over there, Imam Yisrael, the Yisrael said, this is the case we had previously. The Yisrael said, they want to have Ksubas Banim different. And there's not enough property to go around for Ksubas Banim different. Because they need to do Yerusha Deraisa first. So Imam Yisrael, Venu Malim Al Nichse Abinu, will give to our father's property more money, Yisr Dinar. They shidlu Ksubas in order that there's enough money to do Yerusha Deraisa, token of Ksuba, token of Yerusha, and then the rest of Ksuba. We don't listen to that. Rather, we reckon the value of the property in basin, and we divide it up accordingly, right, based on our evaluation. So to here, wherever we, I forgot what the proof is. 1 second. Yeah, so to here, just like over there, they can't say, well, we'll manipulate this. It's a strange comparison. So over there, they can't say, well, we'll manipulate the situation so it should be enough for Ksuvas and Pirushas. So to over here, they can't say, well, even though there's not enough for 12 months for us, this is enough for 12 months for you, you take that and give us the rest. Chazal, actually, in that case, we're not misaking that. Chazal only said the boy should get something, according to our Mishnah, if there's enough for 12 months for everybody. Otherwise, the boys have to go beg anyway. So that's what we're saying here, really, that just like over there, the boys can manipulate it in their favor, so to here, the boys can manipulate it in their favor. And therefore, if there's enough, let's say, for 18 months, but not, it's 12 months for the 2 girls, or 6 months for the 2 boys, so then they have to go back. Okay? Now, this is different, interestingly, than the case before. Because before said, let's say it was enough property for the girls, and then went up in price, so the boys get it. Because the original distribution has different guidelines of what happens during the course of the year. Right? Because the original distribution is original distribution. But later on, whatever happens is based solely and exclusively on the alterations in the original distribution, and that could be a different parameter. Okay?
Boys go back after they've exhausted the 6 months? Or they go back from the beginning?
They go back, that's what I'm saying, they go back from the beginning. They have no right, the Chazal literally took away from them the right of Yerusha in that situation. Unless later on the price went up. As long as there isn't 12 months for each one of them. They took away the right of Yerusha.
Well, I think of Neiros Hanukkah, the original nace of the Kaf Shemen. Wasn't that the dilemma? Should they divide it up into 8 days?
Yeah, that's true.
Or should they start lighting it and see what happens?
Right. So they should start lighting and see what happens.
Right.
That's right. And that's a good marshal. Because if something happens after it's an Okiru, then the boys will get it. But first you have to start with the complete distribution, then worry about it afterwards. Nice marshal. Kind of wild, yeah, hyperlink, but not bad. Give you A+ in that one. So it says the Gemara. Now, just like we deduct for the daughter's share of food before we give the Yerusha, it's really a bummer. Being an heir is not such a great thing. So too, it should be instead of Kamal Atam, it should say Hodod Atamar. So too, we say Chutz Miksuvasa. Before the sons start getting Yerusha, we have to lap off the ksuva off the top. Chutz Miksuvasa, we have to lap off the burial of the woman, the Amor at the top. Chutz Milve Be'edim, we have to lap off a loan granted with when it says Chutzi Milve Shtar, a loan granted with a star. So until you can't be making Yerusha, you have to take off all these successive layers. So it's not just our Mishnah which says they need, Yerusha is obviously a very rare thing, because it's not just the 12 months of each daughter, but besides that, Ksuva, Kvura, all these things, until finally get around to making Yerusha for the kids. Boys suffer discrimination unfairly here, basically. That was Admon's Taina, okay? Says the Gemara, you know what it says in the Bavli. Remember it says in Bavli, Admon says, if I recall correctly? So it says about Chutzi Parnosas Bonos. What about Parnosas Bonos? Now Parnosas Bonos, it was something I think we had it, but a while ago. Isur Nechasim. Each daughter gets as a dowry a tenth of the estate. That's besides everything else. So do we lop off those 10% for each daughter before we actually do the look for Yerusha? So Chutz Parnosas Bonos. Mana Margoy, so it depends. Mana Margoy Parnos Mishran, who says this tenth of the property is so collectible. They collect also from property which was sold after the lien was placed after the father had his daughters. So then Parnosas Bonos Kodmos. So it's built into the system so essentially that also takes precedence. Mana Engoy Parnosim Mishran Parnosim Shabbatim. He holds you don't take the Isur Nechasim from property which was sold in the interim. Obviously, it's not a hard and fast principle, and therefore, Ein Parnosas Bonos Kodmos, that tenth of property does not come off the top before you get the Yerusha D'Oraisa. Now, the next 3 words the Korbaneh takes out, because it's a new issue. Amono Banim, Shneim Shavim. It's an interesting thing. Let's say you don't have any daughters, but a widow and sons. So who gets Mazonos first? When there's a daughters and sons, the daughters go first. What if it's just a widow and sons? So they're all equal. They have to divide it up equally. Nobody has any dibs over anybody else. Amana Banos, what if there's an Amana and daughters? Also stay in Shabbos. They're both equal. Ein Amana Derech Sabanim. Amana on the other hand does not take precedence over the children, the boys. Ein Amana Derech Sabanos doesn't take precedence over girls either. Hey Chavida, how does this work? If there was food for 12 months, and there was an amana to feed. Now take out the next 2 words. Rather go to the top item now. Oh, wait, no, that was the end of that. The first thing was so then everybody gets distributed equally. Now, sometimes the Amana successfully pushes away the boys to the girls. Kashem Shidachas and says Gemara, Kashem, that's Kashem Shidachas Abayim Adei Abonos. Just like she pushes off the boys to the girls, Kach Tidche, so too she should push. Now she said the also they bunch me Amana Labanim. Why does the Amana push off the sons only with the girls and not where there are no girls? You see the question? Amana with girls pushes off boys. Amana without girls does not push off boys. Why not? What's the difference? Says I'll tell you, it's a good interesting reason. Because when there's an Amana and boys, they say to her, hey, you might go and demand your ksuva tomorrow and lose your mazonos. Right? Because the woman who demands her ksuva actually loses her mazonos. So therefore, they say to her, you have no superiority over us, because you have no strong claim to mazonos, because tomorrow you might take your ksuva and you won't get any mazonos at all. Later today you might take your ksuva and won't get any mazonos at all. So therefore you have a lesser claim to mazonos than us. However, when there are Amana and sons and daughters, so an interesting thing. This is a play motion. I'm going to tell you over. It's a very interesting thing. He says, when Amana and sons, so sons usually the Raisa. The Amana only gets Mazonas to Rabbana. Okay. That's the case. We say she's no better than they are. But when their daughters and sons and Amana, the daughters of the Rabbana, but they're the type of the Rabbana which Rabbana gave koyach over the Doraisa. Because they actually gave the daughters the right to take the property and bar the sons from the property. So that's all actually overriding the Doraisa. There, the Amana rides in their coattails and says, me too. I also override the boys. So in a case of Amana against boys, the Rabbana is not strong enough to override the boys. But if it's Amana and daughters, and the Rabbana is strong enough to override the boys, she gets schlepped in by the coattails. Okay? Very interesting, the perspective. Okay. It says that the boys should go beg. Tani. Those that said Ishanu, to rely. They should rely on begging. When someone said Yishalu means they should seek. Madam Yishanu, they should lie. Yishanu Ta'aseit says by Abraham Avinu that Malachim should rely or relax under the tree. Madam says they should ask, they should beg. His children will wander the face of the earth. The Shalu, and they will ask the Darshu and quest Mecharvo Seim from their swords. So we say that questing is called Shalu. Rabbi Zira and Rabbi Chaim b'shem Rav Zira b'shem Rabbi Abraham said Shnei Dvarim Amar Chanon. Chanon said two things. Haloch Ketz v'lo Zakin. Shiva Dvarim Amar Admon. Haloch Ketz, but we don't pass like Admon. Rabbi Abba Pesach Shem Yitzhak Bar Chakula said we do b'chol makom sheshino Amar Gamliel Roni Yasiv Admon. Wherever Gamliel says he likes Admon, haloch Ketz v'lo Zakin. Okay. Now another case, and this is a very famous case. I mean, all these cases are famous, but this is talking famous. Hatoyes Chaver, bet you some of you heard of this. Hatoyes Chaver Kadei Shem. I say you owe me oil. Vodalo Kankanim. You say I don't know you owe you oil. I owe you drugs. Chadman Omer oil voda mixes atayis shava. It's more than a mixas. When I demanded oil plus drugs. You conceded drugs. That's why the mitzvahs. You got to take a shvuah for a partial confession. It's not a confession which is a part of the taina, because the taina is only the oil. not the jugs. Gemara's going to say that later on. Yeah, but it's called Tano Chitim Vodelo Sorim. That's a classic statement. Shmuel's read out. Gamliel says Rani Stephen Admon. Now the Mishnah here the Gemara. Everybody here says for the first 6 lines is very messed up. 7 lines. Tilo Diach HaKocha, which is 7 lines down. So I'm going to read to you like the Shari Teres Yisrael says, which is similar to Korbanei Pnei Moshe. You can follow more or less along, but not quite. First it starts off, before Masnisa, it says, Rabbi Chia bar, he took it from the Gemara Shavuos, his Gerson. Rabbi Chia bar Abba Shem Rabbi Yochanan says, Masnisa, now going to the Gemara itself, Masnisa b'shaton ochitim v'lo b'sori. Our mission is a case where I claim wheat and you concede barley, which of course is, in which case we say, of course, that it doesn't work. Avo b'toano, if he toano shnei meaning, but if you ask for 2 things, voda be'echamem chayev, and he conceded one that's chayev. So we learned our mission not like I said. That it's not that he's demanding the oil and the jugs, and he's getting just the oil as being more than the oil, because then our mission is waged. One's tying the oil, and the other's conceding the kankanim, the jugs. Okay, but if it was oil and jugs against jugs, then everybody would agree it's chayev. Everybody's agreed it's chayev v'shvua because it's by the mitzvahs. Now, Rabbi Ami b'shem Rabbi Yochanan said, no. Masnisa lavsov dorish shatano chitim other b'slo b'sorim. Ami is not talking where he wanted apples and oranges. I feel like tano shnei minim. But even if he said, I want apples and oranges, he could see it only on the apples, not the oranges. Also, in that, even in that case, Chachamim say it's not more, it makes us. Alright, so why did Shavuos say a case only of chitim versus sorim? Why didn't it say chitim plus sorim against sorim? We shouldn't have tanina around Gamliel Mechayev, because he wanted to go afazoy vayik to show that Ran Gamliel's Mechayev, even if it's chitim and sorim. Because obviously Ran Gamliel doesn't look at mina taina. He says, I claim something, you conceded something, that's enough for moedim and mikzas. But Chachamim hold, no, moedim mikzas only by concede something within the taina itself. Okay, so that's how Rabbi Yochanan learns it. Okay, now says the Gemara further. Rabbi Avod. Now we have an inside again. Rabbi Avod Rabbi Ami. Rabbi Avod said like Rabbi Ami that the machlokas is by chitim and sorim, by apples and oranges, and conceded apples. No. Masnisin the machlokas is b'shatono chitim v'lo b'sorim, apples on oranges. Avotono shnei meaning vodlo be'echamim. But if he said 2 and I concede of one of them, everybody calls it called chayev. So it's a major machlokas here. How to learn the machlokas in the Mishnah, whether it's only on apples and oranges, or apples and oranges against apples, or apples and oranges against oranges. Okay.
They never consider monetary value.
No, it's interesting. No. But it's probably underlies on Gamliel to a certain extent, the monetary issue, yeah. I don't know why they never speak about it. I'm not sure if it's intentional or if it's implicit or not implicit. That's a good question. Okay. Rav Kav Shimron Lulakish, Rav also Gish Lakish as well. Because Chad Barnash, a certain person, Azil boy made him Chavrei, Kami Rav. He went to a court case in front of Rav with his friend. So he claimed, I want barley, wheat, and spelt. Rav said, anything you complain for him, galgo. Claim. Whatever you want. Whatever he concedes in the end, he'll be moedim b'mikzas, and he'll take a shvu on one of them. Why? So what do we see here? The Rav holds, the Chachamim hold, that if I claim apples and oranges and grapes, and you concede only grapes, that's already moedim b'mikzas. Because that's what he's telling me. Right? Okay, says the Gemara. Aravo said, Kach Meshiv Rabbi Yochanan as Shimon Lakish as Rabbi Yochanan. This is how Shimon Lakish answer Rabbi Yochanan. Al Dait Chodam, according to you that you say, Tonom Shnei Mini Boy Lo Bechman Divrei Chomi Potter, apples and oranges, and he concedes only oranges, Chomit say potter, Vatina doesn't say Tano, Kalim, Bekarkos. If I claim for you Kalim, Bekarkos, it says potter. Hold the Kalim, Bekuffer, Bekarkos. If he's Moida Kalim, I'm sorry, Tano, Kalim, Bekarkos, hold the Kalim, Bekuffer, Karkos, Karkos, Bekuffer, Bekalim, is potter. Right? It says there, if I'm Moida, it says it's potter. So it says in Kalim, Bekalim, potter. If it's talking about Kalim by Kalim, he claimed Kalim, and the guy answered Kalim is potter. Kalim at Kros Lo Kosh Kain is not Kav. I get flustered whenever they go up to the Omer. All right, we'll stop here for this evening. I'll go back on Monday. Anyway, on Monday I think we'll finish. Yeah, Monday we'll try and finish. If we don't finish by the time Marv, so we'll go after Marv and finish on Monday.